Under the Biden administration, judicial confirmations have happened at a relatively quick clip in comparison to his predecessors. But that may be about to change should Republicans take back the Senate in the midterms. South Carolina's Lindsey Graham said Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson would not have even come before the Judiciary Committee if Republicans were in charge. Party leadership did just that to Merrick Garland, effectively killing his Supreme Court bid. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell told Axios, quote, "The president will finally be as moderate as he campaigned as if Republicans win back control." For more, let's bring in CBS News political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. Caitlin, what do you make of McConnell's statement, and what does it mean for future potential Biden nominees?
Hey, Nicole. Well, you've been following this judicial nomination process very, very closely over the past few weeks, and you know that kind of statement from Mitch McConnell makes very clear that Republicans are probably unlikely to take up a Biden nominee if they control the Senate. He hasn't really said explicitly what he would do if Republicans control the Senate and there is a vacancy on the Supreme Court, but he's not really answering the question of whether he would guarantee a hearing. And talking to Republicans and Democrats up here, both sides have been commenting this week about how this process has really broken down into kind of a partisan exercise here. I asked Chuck Grassley, who, as you know, is the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, could be the chairman of the committee if Republicans take over the Senate. I asked him earlier this week if Republicans do take control, would they take up Biden's judicial nominees? And he said, ask me on November 9th. I'm not going to count the chickens before they hatch. So that kind of gives you an indication of what they're looking at here. I also spoke to Democratic Senator Chris Coons, who, as you know, sits on the Judiciary Committee, and he said the comments from Lindsey Graham signaled to him that Democrats would have a very, very difficult time confirming a Biden nominee if there is indeed a vacancy and Republicans control Congress.
So what kind of impact could this have on the courts?
Well, we've talked to not only lawmakers, but judicial activists and other observers, and they say that this not only affects the Supreme Court nomination and raises questions about kind of whether and how the Supreme Court is viewed, but also can have an impact on lower courts as well. We should note that Biden has actually had his judicial nominations filled at a pretty rapid pace. He's had more nominations filled than any president since Ronald Reagan, and the Judiciary Committee wants to keep confirming those judges, especially if Senate control of if Democrats hold on the Senate is at stake. So this kind of has a big prospect for not only the Supreme Court but lower courts as well, and it raises this big question of whether a Supreme Court nominee can only be confirmed if the president's party controls Congress.
Yeah, it's a very interesting prospect. So how are Democrats responding? And is this something that could become part of their midterm message?
You know, Republicans have really been able to galvanize their voters around the courts. I asked Senator Rick Scott, who chairs the Republican Senate campaign arm, and he reminded me that, look, Donald Trump was elected essentially because he put out that list of potential Supreme Court picks. Republicans are very used to being able to animate their voters and have been successful at animating their voters around the courts. Democrats haven't really been able to do that, and now there are groups that have kind of sprung up with the idea of trying to motivate voters around the courts. And so this could be a situation that Democrats could point to really try to galvanize their voters. And Democratic lawmakers up here have been, that's why they've been kind of sounding the alarm bells about this process. So we'll see kind of how this plays out, whether this is a top issue for voters. What will be important to watch especially is a decision that the Supreme Court could make later this term about abortion. That is going to be a key decision that the Supreme Court will make, and that figures to play a big role in the midterm elections.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, good to see you on the Hill. Thank you.
Thank you.